So now we're heading over to the US of A now to speak to my star guest today is Alyssa Carson. Very good morning, Alyssa. Thank you for taking the time to speak to London's FM1 FM. Am I right? You are respectively an advanced astronaut trainee, and you describe yourself as an aspiring future Mars walker. Tell us more.
So basically, I am an official astronaut trainee. So through the different trainings I've been doing, I've actually got certified as an official trainee to be preparing for space travel. And then eventually all of this would be actually leading up to eventually be an astronaut on the mission to Mars later in the mid to late 30s.
Wow, that is so fascinating. I've got some questions. How did your fascination with space exploration begin?
Well, I first got interested by watching kind of this cartoon TV show called The Backyardigans, which is about these friends who go on this imaginary adventure in their backyard. And so one being this little 3-year-old watching them go on this adventure to Mars, which is one of the episodes, I was just completely fascinated. I wanted to go with them, be their friends, go on the little adventure with them. So I started asking my dad all about if it was possible for people to go to Mars, and it just kind of started this interest. So from there, I just kept researching anything I could about space. That kind of just started my passion, and I never stopped wanting to learn more.
Wow, that is that really is intriguing. Could you tell me how long would it take to fly to Mars? Would you know yet?
So right now, kind of the idea for the whole setup of the mission to Mars is for a crew to launch, and then for it to take about 6 months to get there. And then the crew would stay on Mars for between a year or two. It all really depends on the orbit of Mars and Earth, because sometimes Mars is closer, sometimes it's further. So we just kind of have to wait for Earth and Mars to come and be close again to launch to go back home, and then it should be about 9 months to get back home.
Wow, that's really exciting times. So what would the people who do live on Mars do differently to the people who are living on Earth at the moment? What would they do different if we could learn from, what we do now?
Well, so when people first go to Mars, they're going to be living very differently than what we do here, because Mars is kind of a completely different world, something we're not used to. I mean, one thing just getting used to is, putting on a spacesuit to walk outside. That's something we're definitely not used to here on Earth, having oxygen all around us. But then at the same time, a lot of the things that are going to be done on Mars is just a lot of research. That's the main thing that's going to be done. So while people are living there, they're just going to constantly be doing different tests in the soil, testing water samples, trying to figure out anything we can about Mars, and maybe even seeing if it's possible to kind of transform Mars into another Earth. So maybe we could live on Mars, maybe in many, many years, but possibly just like we do here on Earth.
Wow! So you're a pioneer. You were making this thing happen, which is wow! I find it really fascinating. I have to ask. You might. Do you know where David Bowie once says, "Is there life on Mars?" Do you think there really is extraterrestrial life on there?
I think that there is a pretty big possibility that there's some bacterial life in some of the water that is found on Mars, and especially, when you get towards the equator of Mars, there's steam there. So we know it's warm, and there's water kind of inches underneath the surface of Mars. So those are all kind of like good signs that there has a big possibility of being life. I mean, obviously, we're not going to go find any little green walking men around, but there's probably a good chance of there being some kind of little bacteria in the water.
So would that be a kind of version of insects, so to speak, wildlife, creatures, that type of thing?
I mean, it kind of all depends on what we get there and what we find, but that's also kind of the exciting part of going there.
Wow, that's good. So, what's your favourite thing of being on a spaceship, if you have been on one yet?
So, I mean, for me, I've gone to see different companies building their rockets, building their capsules, and getting up close and personal with them, and so kind of one of my favorite things is honestly just really talking to the people who are building them, because they're so inspiring, and kind of hear their story of what it's like working on a rocket, and you just see how passionate these people are to actually engineer and create things for the astronauts, because there's so many people who take part in the team to actually send astronauts to space. And at the same time, it's just amazing to look at this work or this kind of piece of machinery and you say, wow, like that can take like someone to space. It's just kind of amazing thing to think about.
Wow, that is amazing. So, how does an astronaut eat and drink while in space?
So for eating and drinking, astronauts nowadays, we can really bring almost any kind of foods that we have here on Earth into space. I mean, sometimes we'll kind of change them up a little bit for to make them easier for storage to bring, so we can bring more. So sometimes we'll like dehydrate them so we can bring more food, and then the astronauts will rehydrate them with hot water once in space. But then for like water, we have different like packets, and so they would actually drink the liquids like kind of out of the packets. And sometimes astronauts just kind of squirt it in the air and just kind of like float over and eat it in their mouth and kind of like that. So astronauts have a lot of fun with their food and drinks while they're in space. It's kind of like a game for them.
Wow, that's really fascinating. So I want a couple more to go. What was the solar eclipse like on the August 21st in the States, and did you see it?
The eclipse was pretty exciting. I was very excited to get to see the eclipse. I didn't actually get to go anywhere for the full totality. I actually ended up staying home, and we were at around 78%, so it wasn't too bad. But for the eclipse, I was at my school, and I helped put on a little event for everyone at the school to see. So we all got glasses for everyone in the school, and we all went outside and was hanging out and watching it. And I know just from right when it started, with just a small sliver of the moon was seen on the sun, I got really excited. I was running all around the place. But I thought it was really cool. It was absolutely like just an experience that like I won't forget, and I'm hoping to go and experience an eclipse in full totality.
Wow. So Richard Branson is launching his first commercial space line, Galactica. Do you think the market for space tourism will take off?
I think that kind of those private industries, like Virgin Galactic, SpaceX, they're very much getting really involved in the space program. And I think it's like this complete shift and changing, because now we don't have just governmental agencies sending people to space. And it's a really good thing, I would think, because now we're having different companies going to different places, basically. So now we're not just kind of locked on one place. When you just have the government agencies, they're like, okay, we're going to go here next. And so now everything is just focused on going to that one place. Whereas like right now we can have companies like NASA working on a Mars mission, and then companies like SpaceX working on sending American astronauts back up to the International Space Station off of U.S. soil. And then you can have companies like Virgin Galactic who are working on like space tourism. And so you just have all these different components. So it's getting kind of the public and everyone kind of more involved in space travel, which I think is a really good thing. So, like just seeing how important space is. And so now more people can be a part of it.
Wow, brilliant. So how important do you think technology will be in 20, 30 years' time?
Oh, I think it's very important to continue developing new technologies, because the new technologies that we can get, then either the faster we can go through space, and the more we can kind of learn. I mean, an easy example of that is right now I was saying the mission to Mars is set to take about 6 months to get there. But with new technologies that they're developing, they can actually get that down to 6 weeks. And so being able to go to Mars in just 6 weeks instead of 6 months, that's a huge difference.
Wow.
So it's all about developing those technologies and seeing how we can improve what we're doing.
Righty-ho, just a couple more. What is your favourite space-themed movie, if you have to choose one?
My favorite space movie, I obviously really enjoy The Martian. That's a really good movie. And then kind of an older one that's my favorite is just Apollo 13, just because I think that the story is just really told in such a great, like, cinematic way. And so that's kind of my other favorite.
Oh, wow. Another one which was of interest of me. Have you seen Solaris at all? That's another space-themed film.
I don't think I have.
It's that's quite interesting. Yeah, so it's very much like an early 70s film.
Ooh, I have to watch it then.
Solaris, yeah. So one more. You could be the DJ now. What song would you like to hear now on FM1 FM London, if you have to pick one?
A song? Oh goodness. We can play Despacito.
Oh wow, what a great song. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. And I wish you the very best of luck with all your hard work and your mission. So we'll hopefully catch up very soon. My name's Dan. Thank you for being on the FM radio show.
Thanks so much.